I got this question the other day that said, what's the difference between a vlog and a video? And I thought, you know what? That's a pretty good question. Now, the short answer is a vlog is just a type of video. But that got me thinking, why not do a video about all the types of YouTube videos that you may want to consider doing? Now, this would work if you've been doing a certain type of video for a while and maybe you want to change some things up. Or maybe you haven't started yet, especially if like you're over 40 and you're thinking, well, I kind of want to start, but what kind of video might I do? Well, my name is Kevin Colby, and in this video, I'm going to go through a lot of different types of video. They're in no particular order at all. They're not ranked. And I'm going to share some examples, and we'll talk about kind of pros and cons as well. I don't want to ever pretend like they're all easy. You just turn on that easy switch, which doesn't exist, and then you start creating. I will say that none of these should use AI. Creating AI content, I can give you a little heads up, ain't on the list. I'm about you doing your own creative God-given gifts and doing that. So, first up is live streaming. Live streaming, I will have to say, and I'm going to kind of contradict myself, is possibly the easiest way of all of these of creating content. Because when you go live, you're live, and then when you're done, you're done. Now, I know that's pretty, you might want to write that down. Sounded better in my head. But what I mean by this is there's so many different ways of going live streaming. You can actually just do, and I've done this before. I've done so many different kinds on my channel where you can just do like I used to do this you and me live stream, and every Friday I would just share updates and talk, and if people were there, you can answer questions. So it's just kind of this community builder type of live stream. My friend Nick Nimmin does a mega live stream every Saturday and has done it for years. But there's also live streams where you prepare in advance, and I've done those as well, where I've kind of come up with some points I want to talk about, and then I leave time for questions. So whether you just, I'm just going to wing it and go live and have some fun, or you plan your video out, maybe you've got some slides you want to show or some graphics or, or whatever. Live streaming is a good way of doing videos. And if you're new to video, believe it or not, it can actually kind of get you going because, again, once you hit live, it's live. I love live. Now, maybe it's because I came from radio first before I got into television. So, on radio, when you turn your mic on and the song's running out, you better have something to say. But it was fun, and live streaming is still one of my favorite ways of producing content. I just don't do it as much now, but who knows? Maybe I'll change that. So live streaming is a way of doing video. And by the way, shameless plug, I did write a book on it, Live Streaming Made Easy. I'll put a link to that down below where I literally try and make it easy for you. Another type of video is a vlog or vlogging. I will have to say, even though I don't vlog that much anymore, I've done sporadic vlogs over time in my channel. I will have to say this is probably one of my favorite types of videos to watch and actually do. Now, the irony is, and I was going to look this up before I started recording, and I should have, but I don't know when the term vlog was first invented and put out there. But it really only stands for video blog, if you think about that. And I've done several. Like one that came to mind was one I did called Monster Beach Wheelchair years ago. My family and I went to the beach. Our youngest son, as we refer to him as our little dude, has special needs. He's in a wheelchair, and this beach had this crazy cool giant beach wheelchair. In fact, it was the only way we could get him to the beach and up and down the beach. It almost looked like one of these big monster truck things. Well, that was a vlog. And the way I did it is I shot a lot of different things. I think I was just using my phone at the time. Yeah. Go figure. And then I edited it later. I'm not sure I edited in the hotel. I may have on my laptop, but basically you're shooting a lot of different things, and then you're bringing it together into a story or something like that. Most vlogs, most, not all, have some kind of story. Doesn't mean you have to be a master storyteller. I've done vlogs when I was working with a nonprofit. It was doing some hurricane. After this hurricane, it just destroyed this beautiful little community, and I was down there doing some fundraising videos for them, and decided just to kind of vlog about it while I was there. And you can do it in the moment or things like that. I'm just a fan of vlogs. They're not necessarily easy to do, but there's so many different ways of doing them. One of my favorite YouTubers and vloggers who I think probably created it is Casey Neistat. Just phenomenal. Now, no, I don't like every video Casey does, and he's taken some breaks, but probably the video he's done that is on my must-watch list, I share it all the time. You could argue, is it really a vlog because it's a little bit more produced, was one called Do What You Can't. Absolutely phenomenal. And by the way, I'm going to put links to some of the channels I mentioned and some of the videos I mentioned down below, so you can go check these out yourself. Another type of video is podcast/video podcast. Now, the reason I put the slash in there is you can actually do a straight up podcast on YouTube. If, in fact, even if you have a podcast somewhere, just say it's just audio podcast, which there's nothing wrong with, you can actually bring it into YouTube. I would always recommend doing a video podcast. Again, another another shameless plug, but I did co-write a book with my friend Ross Brand called Video Podcasting Made Easy. You see kind of a theme there. But again, it's because we've both done this, and we just wanted to try and make it easy. The reason I'm a proponent of video podcasting is because you increase your chances of exposure, if you will. Like I was just on a coaching call with a lady, and her content so screams podcast. And I said what I would do, and I showed her how to do it. And I've done videos on my channel about how to create video podcasts. YouTube's made it very easy. But I said I would do that, and because if somebody wants then to listen to her content, all of her content, everything she's going to do on her channel, it was all podcast ready, meaning you could close your eyes, not have the video, and it would work. This video will live as a video podcast on my channel. What I like about that on YouTube is that it also gives me exposure on YouTube Music. But then I also take the audio and I put it on Spotify as well. So there's an advantage of doing that. Now, how you do the video podcast, that's kind of up to you. Sometimes it's me just talking like this. I have kind of changed my style. I don't know if I should say change my style. I've kind of adapted this style that I like, and it seems to resonate with some people, of just like we're at a coffee shop, hanging out, talking. That's what I like to do. I'm talking to the lens, but I'm hopefully I'm connecting with you on these videos, whether you want to do that or not. But there's so many different ways of doing video podcast. And I like that format. I usually listen to a podcast every morning. I get up, I get on the treadmill, I do about 30 minutes on the treadmill, and I'm always listening to different podcasts. So video podcast or podcast is another way of doing videos. And since we're talking about podcasts and video podcasting, let me tell you about the sponsor of this video, Riverside. Think of Riverside as a way to record your videos from start to finish. This video was recorded inside of Riverside because not only do you have all the tools to get your recording just right, but then Riverside has all the tools on the back end that you can even do more with the video you just recorded. And besides using Riverside to create your videos, you can even use Riverside to host your podcast. Oh yeah, you heard that right. Riverside has podcast hosting built into its plans. And creating and hosting your podcast on Riverside will save you a lot of time too, because again, once you've done it, you can do everything podcasty, is that a word, inside of Riverside. And it wouldn't be pure podcast hosting if you couldn't automatically upload your podcast episodes to YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts Yes, you can do that inside of Riverside. So if you want to check out Riverside, make sure you check the link below and use my code Kevin Colby because you can save 15% off any plan. There's a link below. Thanks for Riverside for sponsoring this video. Another type of video is what I call a video essay. This is like where you're telling more of a story, and typically video essays are voiceover, meaning, I mean, could they be faceless? I guess it's not, I don't usually put them in a faceless type of video category, but I guess they could be. But it's more like narration. One of my absolute, by the way, I haven't done any video essays that I could share, but I keep thinking about doing some because I have some ideas. So I write those down and think maybe I'll do a video essay. But it's kind of like an essay on something. Typically, it's a specific topic or a series of ideas that have an umbrella with a video element. That's video essay. I know. One of my absolute favorite channels channels is called Cinema Sticks. I absolutely love this channel. It's all video essays, primarily about movies. There was one that he did that was about the movie Rambo, which, you know, kind of launched the whole First Blood. So actually, I'm sorry, it was more about First Blood, which launched the whole Rambo thing. And it is fascinating. In fact, I think it's a two-parter, just absolutely fascinating. But I think his name is, I'm not sure it's David. I may get that wrong. But he does a phenomenal job, all narrated with clips from a movie. He did one on Ferris Bueller. He's done one on Star Wars. I mean, it's all over the place. And it's really in depth to sometimes the psychology behind the movie and scenes in the movie and the way they made the movie. And it's just so good. I have no idea how long it takes him to make those. I would think quite a while. So this would be one of those where, you know, if you watch one, and again, I'll put a link to his channel down below. I think you're going to see he puts a lot of time in those, but dang, they're good. Now, I can hear somebody ask about, well, what about fair usage? You know, I would always recommend before you do a react type of video, which is a type of video, or do something like he's doing on this channel, you need to read the rules for fair usage and make some hard decisions yourself. There's a lot of gray area there. And I've seen people where I feel like, I don't know if you should be doing that or not. But just because somebody else does it doesn't mean that you can do it. I know there's a guy named Sean Chandler who does Sean Chandler Talks About Movies. And he's done videos before where he's talked about there are some movie companies that they're just hard to work with. It seems like they would be okay with you promoting their movies, but you know, that's the way it is. All right, another type of video, interviews. I love talking to people. Now, I'm wondering if I got this from my late mother. She, as a kid, it would drive me nuts. We'd go to the store and she'd talk to everybody. She'd just talk to everybody. I'd be like, come on, Mom, come on, come on. But I think I got that from her. I just love to talk to people. And being able to interview people is something that I enjoy doing. I think I'm good at it. I think there's other people that are better at it, but I just enjoy hearing people's stories. Now, there's a lot of different ways of doing interviews. Typically, when I book an interview and do an interview with someone, I have a reason I've asked them to be on the channel. I mean, if you look back at all the interviews I've ever done, which ironically I've made into a video podcast and a playlist, I reached out to those folks for some reason. I knew what I wanted to talk about, but then I'm one about letting the interview just kind of go and breathe. I don't over prepare it. Ross and I talk about this in the book too, Video Podcasting Made Easy, because you never know when somebody's going to say something in an interview that you hadn't prepared, and you're like, oh, dang, that's pretty good. And typically the way I need to create, all of mine are done virtually. I get that in-person interviews are far better. I would much rather meet a friend at a coffee shop so I can see them while we're talking, like in real person, as opposed to, you know, using software to do it. But you do what you do. So I've done a lot of interviews on my channel, and I can tell you every stinking interview I've done, I have so loved doing. And even when I was in television, I used to do interviews for our station because we were a Fox station. We were more entertainment driven. So I got to interview a lot of the Fox stars, like Gordon Ramsay was an absolute hoot. John Walsh from America's Got Wanted, America's Most Wanted, not Got Wanted, even went out for a couple of years and interviewed the American Idol contestants before they were announced. In fact, who did I interview? David Cook and Jordan Sparks that year. And of course, my favorite interview was going to New York for the premiere of 24 Live Another Day and interviewing the entire crew, the entire cast, including Kiefer Sutherland. But there's other interviews channels that I love. One is Colin and Samir. I'm a huge fan of Colin Samir for so many ways and for so many reasons. They will actually interview themselves, which is key. You always have somebody to bounce it off of. But just so many of their interviews with people inside the creator economy. Typically, there's some reason I want to watch it, but I have seen some interviews that they've done with some folks. It's like, oh, wow, I didn't know about that. So Colin and Samir's one. And another one is Micro. Micro's a hoot. In fact, there have been interviews that Mike has done that I thought, well, I'm not that interested in that one. And there was one he did with this lady, and she was a philanthropist. And when I read the description, I thought, yeah, I'm not gonna watch that one or listen to it, because his Liz as an audio podcast and also video. And my wife asked me, hey, did you listen to that interview? And I said, no. She goes, you really ought to. And I went back, and it was so good. It was one of Mike Rowe's interviews with a guy named Carlos Whitaker, who wrote the book Reconnected, which I did a video on, that totally blew my mind, enough that I got the book. Actually, my wife got the book Reconnected. She said, you really need to read this book. It's great. I read it. I was in the middle of this social media hiatus anyway, but in the book and in the interview, Carlos is talking about how he went 7 weeks screen free. It's a great book. It's a great interview. And if you want to see my video about how I went 6 months off social media, I'll put a link to that down below. Now, let me say one more thing about interviews. Are interviews easy to do? It depends. It depends on how you want to do them. I don't over-research because, again, I don't interview necessarily folks that I have no idea who they are. Why would they be on? I get pitched interviews a lot because of my interviews and my podcast. But typically, I love to go in because I'm inquisitive by nature, and I'm just doing it like a conversation. But again, the downside to that could be how you want to do it and the prep and things like that. Again, there's so many softwares out there that just make it super easy to do interviews. Like Riverside is one of those. All right, another type of video, shorts. This is my least favorite type of video. Why? Well, I don't enjoy watching them, and I don't enjoy making them. In fact, I even decided quite a while ago to take all the shorts off my channel. I did a video about that and explained that the problem I have with shorts, still have that problem. Kevin, can you not get a lot of views with shorts? Well, first of all, there's no guarantee. People that sit there and make all these guarantees, it's like, yeah, whatever. But they're typically, shorts will drive views because they've changed the way that they count views now. And you may get a lot of subscribers off of them, not necessarily guarantee, but they don't do anything to build connection at all. But it is a way of doing this. Now, even though I'm not a fan of shorts, I admit there are channels out there that do shorts very well. I don't watch them, but they do them very well. And I will say there can be an art. There can be an art to creating a short, especially if you want to just cover a bunch of information very quickly. You don't want to go into long form video, which I'm more of a fan of. So there is that. I don't know that shorts have to be crazy overproduced like some people do. I personally think if you're going to do shorts, and I'm not advocating that you do, But if you decide to do it, I would just pull out your phone and do it and shoot it vertical. That's the way it is. I know YouTube has made shorts now where they can be up to 3 minutes and they can be square or vertical, whatever. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention shorts. So there, I've checked that one. I'm not talking about shorts anymore. Another type of video to create, documentaries. I love documentaries, especially if they're good. I've never done a documentary. I have some documentary ideas. Whether I ever do them or not, I don't know. But think of a documentary as it might take quite a while. I know of people that have spent a long time creating documentaries. And even though I think a lot of times we think of documentaries maybe on the Sundance Channel or on PBS or on Netflix or Amazon, there are a ton of great documentaries on YouTube. In fact, Colin and Samir did a video. They didn't consider it a documentary. I did. It was all about Mr. Beast opening the Beast Burger things or whatever. And I'm not a fan either way of Mr. Beast, but it is good. But documentaries can be a way to create videos. Now, again, I'm not going to pretend what I know to go into it because I haven't made one. I know of people and have friends that have made documentaries, and it can take quite a while, but the payoff can be huge. Now, there are different examples out there. My wife and I watched one the other day that the subject matter was fascinating. And ironically, I found out about it when Colin and Samir interviewed the guy who made it. Two guys made it. The documentary is called Listers, and it's all about people that are fanatic about bird watching, that they have these lists of birds and they go around. The documentary is fascinating for a couple of things, a couple of reasons. The way they made it is really good. I think the guy that kind of led it up, I don't know if they're brothers or best friends, is more of a filmmaker, and there's some really cool stuff in there. And just even the way it's put together is a lot of fun. What I didn't like about it is the language was just it was a lot. I mean, it was a lot to a point where I'm like, really? Can you not say anything without saying blank? And it almost got to be high school humor and stuff like that. So, is it a good documentary? Yes. Is it hard to watch because of the language? Yes. But I will tell you one of my favorite documentaries I have seen on YouTube, and it was by a channel called Yes Theory. And if you've never heard of Yes Theory, their whole thing is about seek discomfort. And they had been working on this documentary for quite a while and finally put it up, and it's called Project Iceman. And it's about a guy who basically was training to run like I guess a triathlon. It was in Antarctica. Yeah, I mean, it was just like, what? You got to be kidding. It is so good. And I can't remember, it's been quite a while since I've seen it. I can't remember if they talk about it in that or not. But there were some times where they didn't even know if they would be able to finish it because of some weather conditions that came up on them, and they kind of got stranded. I mean, it is fascinating. And then there's even more behind the scenes about how I think they crowdfunded it as well, which is a way of doing this. Listers talks about that in the interview they did with Colin and Samir about how they just used one of these crowdfunding sources to get the money to back it. In fact, I think they even used their Venmo account. But, documentaries can be costly. But again, I know of people that have done them with like just 2 or 3 people. So a documentary can have huge payoffs. And then, as a little sub video point of this, if you launch into the world of documentaries, then think about content around that, like how you made the documentary, lessons you've learned, and things like that, that could become other parts of that video as well, like as a playlist. That could be kind of cool. Another type of video, tutorial. I have done a lot of tutorials on my channel, and I don't probably do as many tutorials as I used to. It's just it's a style that it does take some time to do. It can. Depends on what you're doing. I mean, I did a tutorial once on just how to change your thumbnail on your YouTube video. That one didn't take that long. But I've done other tutorials where I've walked you through the entire process of uploading a YouTube video. That one takes a little longer. So tutorials, though, are a good way to share your knowledge. Now, just in case you're the person who goes, but I'm not an expert in everything. You don't have to be an expert at all. One of my favorite quotes that I'm going to butcher from Pat Flynn is, you don't have to know everything about everything. You just have to know a little bit more than the person behind you that doesn't know that. So again, going back to the thumbnail analogy, there are people that were asking the questions in a Facebook group I was in. How do you change a thumbnail on a YouTube video? And I thought, well, everybody knows that. I'm like, well, evidently they don't. They're asking the question. Kevin, do the video. I did. Tutorials can take time, but tutorials can actually be really good, especially for search, because people are looking for things. Now, again, I have a lot of tutorials I've done over time on my channel, but one channel I want to point out is my buddy Dylan Bates, the Final Cut Bro. Phenomenal, phenomenal. He also does Apple Motion. He's created a lot of his own plugins. Just a super cool guy. I'm in a Discord group with Dylan and some other guys on there, and I hate to not shout them out as well because they do good stuff as well. Dylan Johns is another one. Yeah, we got two Dylans in there. But Dylan Bates does a phenomenal job with Final Cut Pro tutorials. And if you're interested in Apple Motion, that's kind of Apple Motion is kind of Apple's answer to After Effects. I have Apple Motions because I think it was like $50. You buy it, you own it forever. I've only done a few things in there. As good as Dylan is, I still can't figure out Motion that well. But that's not a knock on him. But again, great example, great channel example of tutorials. And again, they may take longer, but you can have an audience for that by people looking how to do something specific. What about AI? Yeah, you can go to AI and ask it a question. I would rather go to the video done by a real person so I can actually maybe reach out to them or learn from them or quite honestly, support them. Another type of video is called ASMR. They're more audio driven. One of the channels I want to point out, I've never done one, even though there's something fascinating about them, is called ASMR Surge. And there's so many things he's doing on there. Like one, he's literally, I say he, I don't know if it's a guy or a girl, flipping through a vintage catalog. I think it's a vintage Etsy. And it's all shot usually, well, this video is shot top down, meaning the camera's overhead. And he's literally just turning the page. There's no music. There's no nothing else. There's one about dry ice. There's also ones where they'll unbox things. And what you literally hear is like the knife cutting open the box opening, the cellophane. But there's also ASMR channels that are more for relaxation. I know our daughter would listen to some that would, they were more about just people, maybe like sifting through sand or just blowing bubbles. I know it may sound like, what the heck? But it's all about the audio at that point. Now, I don't think this would work as a podcast, but it is a way to create video. And if you look at some of the videos, you'll notice a lot of these are one take. So you're letting the sound drive everything. There's typically no music. There's typically no narration, but you might want to check out or consider an ASMR. Hopefully you can say it better than me. Another type of video is animation. I'm going to be honest. I wouldn't even attempt to do animation. I can't even draw a stick man. And in fact, I've tried that when I've drawn a stick man and I've showed it to people. They're, well, what is that? Well, if you can't tell, it's a stick man. But the channel that sticks out to me is the Bible Project. And it is phenomenal animation that walks you through different topics of the Bible, the books of the Bible, so many different things. Now, I have no idea how long it takes to do that. I do know when I was a creative director in television, one of my graphic artists could do animation. He was so good, but it would take him a long time because even doing computer animation, which most of these are, can take longer. Now, there's different ways to do animation. There's still frame and, I guess like, did you ever see the movie The Nightmare Before Christmas, Tim Burton, which is a really cool movie. That's a stop motion animation. But I would assume it takes a long time and a lot of patience. Now, even if you're doing, quote, computer animation, not AI, but computer animation, it still takes time to animate it. But check out the Bible Project, because this is a good way of the way they use animation with narration to actually tell a story, whether it's on, the book of Genesis or the story of redemption or whatever it is a way of doing video. I would highly encourage you to experiment at any stage of your channel. Experiment. You may not have ever done live streaming and realize you try it and think, dang, I like that. Shorts, that's on you. Vlogging, video podcasting, whatever it might be. They're just different ways of creating. This is not the definitive list, but it is a list to hopefully spark some ideas so you can just keep creating and share your gifts with the World Wide Web.